Joining me now is a longtime leader of the Democratic Party, one of those big names, South Carolina Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn. And Congressman, I want to start on just this week that Vice President Harris has had. You obviously already endorsed her, but even before the president withdrew, you said that if it were to happen, the party should not try to work against her. Are you surprised at all that no one in the party has worked against her and that the Democratic Party has coalesced so quickly around her?
Jim Clyburn is not an election savant or something. He has no idea who's going to win anything. He just overstayed his welcome, and he needs to go as well. Instead of trying to help someone else get elected, he needs to help someone in his district get educated and elected, and he needs to get out of there immediately. The dude is way too old and from a different era that we no longer want to be participating in. They keep trying to move the country forward with those kind of ideas. It's never going to happen.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I just slightly surprised, but I think that most of the delegates are pretty much in touch with the history of our party. Most of these people have been around the Democratic Party for a long time.
Too long. Way too long.
They know what happens if you have a wide open convention, as we've had before. What happened in 1968, 1972, 1980. All of those wide open conventions resulted in dramatic losses. Richard Nixon, we got out of 68 and 72, carried on in one state after 1972. So we needed to be able to come together quickly, coalesce behind a nominee, and I think that's what we're going to do with the vice president. She's been in the vice president office now for 3 years.
And hasn't done one thing in 3 years. What exactly is her achievement that she could take on the campaign trail and brag about? I think Biden listed her as the border czar for sure. And what did she do as the border czar? Left the back door open. No one's standing there watching it. So she can't brag about that.
3.5 years. And before that, she was in the Senate.
Where she did nothing.
Before that, she was Attorney General.
Where she did nothing but lock up black people.
Of California. Before that, prosecuting DA.
More black people to lock up.
She has a tremendous resume, one that lends itself well to being able to manage the business of this country famously, and she will do that because I think this country is going to elect her.
He don't believe that. He'll say anything. This dude really got to go. And he's the reason that we're in this mess, because he's the one who swung in and saved Biden with his South Carolina primary. It's really disgusting. This guy is way too old and needs to go away. We got young folks who are very intelligent and who can replace this guy and do a whole lot better and relate to the constituents, because the constituents are all dead as far as the ones his age group.
Do the last 3 years of that resume, her time as vice president, work for her or against her? I know you're very proud of the Biden administration record, but Republicans are absolutely...
And why is Jim Clyburn so proud of the Biden record? They haven't done anything for black people, and he is a representative and a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. What is he so excited about? He's sitting there grinning and skinning, and Biden and Harris haven't done anything for us.
Going to try to hang elements of it around her neck going...
And that's another. Did you hear what he just said? I'm going to rewind that. Good Lord.
Is going to elect her.
Do the last 3 years of that resume, her time as vice president, work for her or against her? I know you're very proud of the Biden administration record, but Republicans are absolutely going to try to hang elements of it around her neck going...
What a bad choice of words. She's trying to sell herself off as a black person, and he's discussing her in any level, and he just said hanging something around her neck. What a bad analogy in this country, and that's really weird.
Forward.
Well, I hope they will, because I think the American people are going to look at the record of the Biden-Harris administration.
He knows that's not true. Because if we looked at the record, they wouldn't win. There's no way they could win. Absolutely impossible. And he knows it. And he's sitting there telling us, oh, if they look at the record, well, what are they going to see in the record that we're not seeing? Higher inflation? Did we miss something? Jim Clyburn needs to stop it. And he acts like he just got it all together. He doesn't. He's got to go as well. He's a stumbling block and a distraction.
And compare that to the proposals coming forth from the other side in their Project 2025. I've been saying to people all over, whatever your interest is, Social Security, Medicare, education, civic service, whatever it is, look up Project 2025. And
oh, yeah, I knew that was coming. Scare tactics from the Democrats. Project 2025 is going to kill the democracy. It's going to, well, if the democracy is going to be killed, it's going to be killed. It ain't doing us no good now. We're at the bottom of the shoe. So I don't know why we'd be so concerned if the people were going to do something to change the democracy. Why would we be depressed about it?
Then go to that section of those 900 pages and see what they're proposing for your interests. What do you mean doing away with the Department or Civil Service employment in this country, turning that over to one person
He just, all that Project 2025 stuff, it's nothing in there specifically that's going to harm black people, but he's trying to insinuate that. Because that's who whenever he's in an interview, he's basically there talking to us black people. He is not on that interview talking to people in Iowa and other parts of the country. He's talking to us. And he's saying things that aren't true because he's there. If we hear it from Jim Clyburn, then we know that he's telling the truth. Everybody's afraid of him because he's the, I guess, the gatekeeper of our little thing we got going there. And it's a scary thought.
Do their bidding rather than the bidding of the American people sounds a little bit like Woodrow Wilson to me. And that is not what we want to have in our government.
Congressman, I'm curious what you make of the Harris campaign and this new video that they debuted. You hear a little bit of the change in tone, the nuance of language here. The vice president talks about freedom, defending personal freedom. It's a bit of a shift from the way the president talked about defending democracy. Is that the kind of change that matters? Do you think Americans would be more likely to be dialed in on concerns over their individual freedoms as opposed to the more abstract concept of defending democracy?
Defending democracy. This ain't a democracy, and it ain't worth one. It's not a democracy worth defending when election after election after election after election, you never address the issues with the black man in this country, but yet you act like too much time has passed and we can't deal with it anyway. We understand what's going on. It's time for one of the administrations to stand up and tell black people where we stand and quit stalling and wasting our time. Just that's the truth.
Well, that takes us back to the kind of basic language that we started using a long, long time ago. The freedom to vote, the freedom to choose, the freedom to go about your business. This is what it's all about. People understand that word freedom.
Yeah, they sure do. I know I understand it. And with people like him in the way, you'll never taste it.
They have trouble trying to define what democracy really means. They understand individual freedoms, and that is a good way to relate to people.
You told USA Today earlier this week, quote, "We thought we were ready for that," meaning a woman to be president in 2016, and we weren't ready for that. I wonder, as we sit here in 2024, is the country ready now?
I certainly hope so. As the father of 3 daughters, I work every day trying to make sure I make this a better place for them to grow up in.
Yeah, he got 3 daughters. He's 80-something years old, and he's worried about them growing up.
Now, those daughters of mine are already grown. I do have a couple of grandchildren and a great-grand. And I want
yeah, people with great-grandkids shouldn't be in Congress.
At least, I got 2 granddaughters and 1 great-granddaughter. I want them to have a country to grow up in much, much different from the one I grew up in.
Then quit selling us out.
I want to ask you, and as someone with two daughters myself, believe me, I'm dialed into this issue too. I want to ask you about the ongoing veep stakes here. The Harris campaign says they're actively vetting some folks. You've name-checked some of the governors here: Shapiro, Cupper, which I'm getting used to saying correctly, Waltz, as well as Secretary Buttigieg. That's about half the list that we have here right now. So I wonder what you make of that list and who you think complements her the best.
Nobody. She's going to have to find somebody who's lazy and stupid.
Well, if you look at, you just mentioned some polling data as it relates to the Midwest. I think Waltz is great for that. If you look at it universally, you look at foreign service, Buttigieg is great for that. The last time I checked, I think he speaks 7 or 8 different languages.
Who's he relating to? Ain't nobody voting for Buttigieg.
Is a tremendous cabinet secretary. He's developed relationships with governors on both sides of the aisle, all over the country. He will do great there. Josh Shapiro, I like very much, know him very well. I know Waltz brings a lot to the table. Keller from the military side. But Waltz was the highest ranking, what do they call it, National Guard's non-commissioned officer in the country. He has a tremendous background when it comes to the military. He is from what we call the Midwest. He will do what she's got a great lineup from which to choose.
You're putting more names on the list, not taking them off here, Congressman. We're working backwards here. So let me ask you the question this way. What do you think should be the most important factor in how she makes this decision?
Well, she should pick a VP who cares about black people and closing the wealth gap between black people and white people. That'd be a pretty good, short, concise answer. Let's see what Jim thinks she needs to do. I bet it ain't got nothing to do with black people.
Chemistry.
Personal chemistry.
Absolutely. Who is he comfortable alongside of?
Who is the white people in the country going to be the most comfortable with?
The vibes that come from that is very, very important. We already see the other side having some problems with chemistry. There is bad chemistry between Trump and Vance, and it's going to get worse.
As you're looking at this race and as you're peering across the border into North Carolina, do you think having Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket changes the map at all? We talked about the Midwest polling. You're a Southerner. Does she play better in North Carolina and in Georgia than perhaps President Biden did?
No, it gets worse. She's going to lose this election, and she's going to lose it by more than Trump lost to Biden. Far more.
In both those states, I think so. Simply because she energizes the young voter.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't energize anybody.
Is much more than Biden did. He was winning them by single digits. She is now seems to be winning them by double digits. It's always best to lead by double digits than by digits.
That's the kind of political wisdom you only get from decades in Congress. Congressman Jim Clyburn, thank you so much for joining us on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, with that, you guys see where we're heading. If this guy has anything to do with the direction of the country and the direction that black people go and what we ask for and negotiate for, we're in a lot of trouble. Anyway, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you have any ideas for content, give them to me. We'll look it up. Maybe do a show based on your suggestions. Talk to you on the next one.